Today on Behind the Strength, we uncover Untaboo, a bold movement reshaping how India talks about sex, safety, and growing up. Meet Anju Kish, the woman breaking silence to build strength through education. Welcome to Behind the Strength, Anju.
Thank you, Priya. Pleasure to be here.
What was the moment or the trigger for you to create Untaboo, your personal Behind the Strength story?
Well, I wouldn't say there was one particular trigger. There were multiple small ones, and then probably one incident which made me realize that I need to do something about it. So there were moments in my growing up time when I grew up with ignorance around these topics. I was very, very naive. I think I was 20 or 21 when I got to know that babies came out from down there. I just thought that what is the opening down there? There's one where you pee from and there's one where you poop from. Peeing one, I'm sure, is very tiny, so it has to be the one where you poop from. So I just thought babies came out from the anus, and it was a shocker when I got to know that there's... And when I tell people this today, they say, you must be crazy. You can't have been so naive. Well, I was. So moments like that growing up, and then I didn't want my child to be,
of course,
growing up ignorant and naive in an era that they were growing up in.
Right.
So while I tried to speak to him, I couldn't find the right words. I couldn't find the right resources. At that point of time, my son is 26 now. So when he was growing up, we didn't have those kind of resources. I remember we were at this dentist clinic. It was a packed waiting room. My son was flipping through the magazine, while he was waiting. He must have been 6 or 7 probably. And suddenly he looks up and says, "Mama, what's a condom?" I froze. Everybody in the room looked up. They froze. All their eyes were on me. I didn't know what to say. And I was a writer. My world was words, and I was at a loss for words. Thankfully for me, the receptionist announced that it was time for us to go in, and that moment passed. And there were multiple moments like that.
Right.
And then I realized that, no, I need to talk to him. And as I was speaking to him, and my friends wanted me to talk to their kids, I started talking to their kids. One thing led to another, and Untaboo just happened.
It was very organic for you.
It was very organic. At that time, it was called, I named it Out of the Box, because sex ed was an out of the box. I think way back, few years after I started, I realized it's not an out of the box topic. It's an absolutely essential topic. It just needs to be untabooed. And that's
right.
how Untaboo was. It was rebranded as Untaboo.
It makes a lot of sense. It's because if you give it the right terminology from the word go, that is the perception that your thought or your perspective is going to get.
Correct.
You were a writer, a mother, a storyteller. How did these, identities shape your transition into sex and safety education?
So I would say that as a writer, I had the words.
Right.
As a parent, probably I was desperate for information.
Right.
The right age-appropriate information. And as a storyteller, I felt that sex ed is an essential part. It's a life skill. It just needs a good narrative. So I think being a writer and being a creative writer really helped, because the kind of content I created is just fun. It's age appropriate, it's fun, it's interactive. And I think being a copywriter really helped me shape that content into what it is today.
It has to be relatable as well.
It has to be.
Yes. Otherwise, there's going to be a sense of fear, scare, or boredom. Was there a particular incident, as you mentioned about your son, or either personal, now I'm getting a little more serious, or if you witnessed something that made you feel that this work couldn't work?
There were a couple of two very serious. I'll talk about one of them, and which I've spoken about at a lot of my interviews, is when my son came home asking me, what does USA stand for? And I said, you know what USA stands for? He said, no, my friends and the older kids in the bus were asking me, have you been to USA? And I told them, I have. And they started rolling on the floor, laughing at me. And it means something else. And, whatever I told him that they're just trying to, pull a fast one on you, he wouldn't agree. And I think 2 or 3 days later, I think he must have really been after them to tell him. And he came back home and he said, Mom, USA stands for underskirt area. I think what that made me realize, like today we commonly hear about this particular incident of USA, kids know that, okay, sometimes they call it the underskirt area, but that time it was a shocker to me. And what I realized that how much ever a vigilant parent I am, I cannot control the exposure my kid has. Absolutely. I need to talk. And I think there was another incident when he came back from school and he said, and that time I think he was slightly older, and he said the kids got internet access because the teacher walked out of a computer class and they had internet, with no adult there. And a lot of them, went in on some site and they were watching some oral sex video. He came asking me, what is oral sex? And that's when he told me that they were watching, they called him to, see it. And he said no, but he wanted to come home and said, now you show me, because you told me whatever you want to know, you need to come to me. So now you show me a video. So that was a very, very tricky phase. So incidents like these happen and I said, no, it's time that we gave sex education the importance it deserved, and it needs to be structurized. It can't be in those random trigger-led conversations which happen. It needs to be mainstream.
Absolutely. But in fact, you're talking about something very sensitive, because today when you think about it, a child, first of all, feels very scared to discuss this with a parent. The fact that your son had the pathway to reach you and to have this conversation openly with you is like a big plus, because this doesn't happen.
I thank my stars, and I have two sons, and one is very open, the other is not. Yes. And I've given them the same kind of upbringing, the same kind of open conversations happen with both of them. Right. But I think it's very intrinsic, I guess. Sometimes. It just means I think I was just plain lucky that he would come and tell me things.
If a child of any age is given that security, or the sense of that I am here for you.
Correct.
Whatever happens, I'm there for you. Please come and talk to me. I'm your friend.
In fact, I always tell parents to kind of practice making the Buddha expression, which is a very
calm expression,
not giving away anything, because the kids can come up with anything out of the blue. Right. And what you say is secondary. How you react is the first thing.
Absolutely, yes. Being a parent myself, I know that firsthand, even in small incidences.
Yes. Because that determines whether they come back to you or not.
Precisely. You're setting the premise.
You're setting the premise for it. Absolutely.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So in those early days where you started, were there like any blocks or fears that you had? How did you move through them? Because something like this, societal pressures, judgment, prejudice, oh, how can he talk about this? Oh, don't listen to this. Oh, you're not supposed to read this. Even though it is educative, it is informative, there's a block. How did you surpass that?
I did this. I certified myself as a sex educator. I spent a year creating content which was age appropriate and fun. And then I said, okay, I'm in business. I launched my company. And then I realized that sex does not exist in India. Conversations on sex do not. We are the largest populators. We are having a lot of it, but we don't want to talk about it. And I realized that all my friends, because the initial people I went to were my friends, and because they had kids the same age as I did, and every time I would talk about it, and they would say, oh my God, the need of the hour. But when it came to sending their children for it, I can actually name the number of excuses which are common. My child is very innocent. I don't want to put thoughts in my child's mind. The school is having this talk. And on prodding that, what is the school talking? Oh, I don't know, but the school is doing this talk. My child is different from the other kids. My child doesn't think about all of this. So the same things, the blocks were there. Because they had those blocks, they were just passing it on to the children. And I realized that, okay, to reach the child, I have to go through the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper is the parent and it is the school.
Absolutely.
So I started doing a whole lot of parent talks. These were awareness talks meant to unblock the mind blocks that parents have about sex education. And I don't blame them, because we've all grown up with that conditioning. There was hardly any sex ed to speak of. So we have that conditioning. And the conditioning which it was so strongly ingrained that good girls and good boys do not talk about these topics. So that conditioning was so strong, and that's what I do through my parent talk. It started, 14 years back, and I still continue doing that.
Have you seen, I'm sure it's been a big difference from the day you started up until now.
Well, there's a huge difference, but the conditioning is still there.
It's deep-rooted. It's going to take many more voices, a lot of time for it to unravel.
But today, they are more willing to listen because they're facing situations with their children.
Precisely. It's unfortunate that it's only when you experience something do you actually want to address
Absolutely.
it. What does the word taboo mean to you now, after over a decade of working with people?
Let me answer this with an analogy. And I use a lot of analogy in Untaboo with the children because I think sometimes using those analogies which they resonate with helps them understand concepts.
Simplifies it, yes.
So I try to do that with parents also. So let's say you've never introduced the concept of fire to a child.
Right.
Right? Taboo is just like that. It makes you stay ignorant. It's an obstacle to safety.
Absolutely.
And what I've realized in my years as a sex educator, having worked with thousands of parents besides the children, is that the taboo is not that it is against our culture. The taboo is stemming from, of course, a little bit of conditioning, but more it is stemming from the fact that a parent does not feel equipped to tackle this conversation.
That's right.
So if I answer my child's question, my child is going to come up with 10 more questions. I don't know how to answer that.
Absolutely.
So it's not the questions which are a taboo. The kids are asking those questions. It's the answers which we have tabooed.
Right, because then after a certain point you do feel that, okay, I can't go beyond this.
I can't go beyond this.
I can tell you this much, but I can't go beyond this.
But if our parents also did that to a point, and I did it to my kids at that point also. But today we can't do that.
We can't afford to do
those
that,
dialogues we used to have, that this is not your age to know it. I'll tell you when you're slightly older. I tell the parents, take all of these dialogues that you use and your parents use with you and go just flush it down. Because they have, at the click of a finger, they will go on the internet and they will ask for the information you're not willing to give them.
That's right. Absolutely.
And then you don't know what kind of information they get.
In fact, my own child would read books on the human body, avid reader, always go into the pregnancy section and ask me, Mama, how does the baby reach there? And I would just tell her very calmly, it's a cell which grows into a baby. How does the baby become big? It's a cell. The mother's body provides the nutrients, the blood, everything, and grows into a nice, healthy baby. It was nothing beyond that. So for me, the answer was very clinical. And I think it's always better to keep it that way. Keep it factual. Rather than saying, there was a dove that came in and put the baby. It is, all those weird...
Oh, yes. I think that's something we have to stop.
The glorification of something or making it out to be something else altogether... That is not the natural way, and not that I'm giving over information for a toddler probably, but it's basic information. And as you said, even I have been lucky to have, someone who is willing to just take that as is. But having said that, now there are children who are not like that. They want to either not know or they want to know something. And if they're given the wrong information, as I just said, a dove, something, anything, anything weird like that, if you put that in a child's brain, what is that child taking forward?
And they're going to stop believing you when they know the facts. So give them the information, but give them just enough.
Precisely.
When they're asking how a baby is born, it is just one of the questions amongst 100 others which they are asking you to figure out the world around them.
Precisely.
How you've answered those 99 questions, answer this in the same manner, in a very factual, basic.
The minute they see a reaction coming, they are going to react.
See, we react like that because in our mind, there's so much of sexual information.
Precisely.
So when a child asks how a baby is created or how did a baby get into the tummy, in our mind, there's a major scene happening, unfolding inside.
Precisely.
Oh my God, sex, that means penis, that means vagina, that means orgasm, that means, how do I tell it this to a 5-year-old? And thus you shut off the child.
Which I did not want to do because that would that would give her more questions.
Absolutely. I remember an incident where my son, he got to know how babies are created, and I had told him, I shown him some, there was a documentary on Discovery happening at that point of time, and I showed him that. And he said, but Dadi always says that बच्चे ऊपर वाले की देन है. So what he did, the smart aleck that he was, he went to Dadi and asked her again, Dadi, बच्चे कैसे पैदा होते हैं?
My goodness.
क्या वो मेरे पापा है?
Oh God, that would have been so good.
My mom-in-law didn't know what to say.
See, now that's when they turn from, being innocent into factual. Oh my goodness, that's quite intriguing. When you walk into a school or, a community where you're having your talks, I'm sure there's still a little resistance, though people are very open on the face of it. I mean, yes, please, welcome, this is essential. But there will be that silence that sometimes you feel, the overbearing silence when some topics come up. How do you deal with that? How do you surpass that?
So when I go into the school and they have a packed auditorium of parents waiting, there is that uncomfortable murmur. Yes. The hands would be crossed like this. They'd be sitting like this. So the first thing I do is shake them up. I said, okay, there's a 3-letter word we are super scared of. It's the most scary word in the world. Can you guess what that is? And ultimately we come to the point that it is the word sex. It's
Absolutely.
a 3-letter word which maybe even the Prime Minister would be scared of if a child asks them what it is. It's just a scary word. So let's address the elephant in the room. Let's scream out this word aloud, really loudly. So I actually make them scream it out aloud. There's laughter.
Yes.
There is suddenly those arms uncross. I said, okay, we've addressed the elephant. It can't get worse than that. Let's get into the conversation.
Loosen
this could be
them
one
up a
trick.
bit, yes.
It could be. I use a lot of humor, and I feel that really helps. Yeah.
Because I think that kind of eliminates the discomfort in the room.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy for a person to understand, especially because we are also conditioned to take sex as a form of humor.
Yes.
Courtesy films.
And even jokes, right? We are
Absolutely.
okay to make sex jokes,
Right.
but we're not okay to talk about sex.
Yes, absolutely. Not in a different manner.
Not
for sure. Have you, as you said, have you ever been asked, why do we have to talk to our kids about this? Why do they need to know about it right now? And how do you answer this question?
I get asked this all the time.
I'm sure.
All the time. I say silence doesn't protect your child.
Right.
Right? If you don't talk to your child, the internet will. Their equally clueless friends will. And today, the most scary of all, pornography will. We have a generation growing up watching porn. And so if you don't, that's where the information is going to come out from. So you decide where you want that information to come, and the positivity and negativity of the information and the behavior stemming from that information will be determined by who talks to them.
Absolutely. And in fact, now we've got AI as well.
Yeah. Even with AIs now, even when all these Siri and Alexa came up, we had kids asking them questions.
In your experience, which is harder, shifting the child's mindset or the adults?
Hands down the adults.
Hands down the adults.
Down.
The conditioning is
the kids are curious. I mean, if a child will ask, where does a baby come from? A parent will say, where did you hear that from?
Right.
A child is curious. We adults a child is naturally curious, I would say.
Right.
And we adults have been trained to be ashamed.
It's been taught to us that
It's been taught to us. It's a conditioning.
Yes, and we need to unravel that.
Though it might be a deep conditioning, we have to, because our kids are growing up in an era of massive exposure. And the exposure not just from the internet, from the shows that they're watching.
Oh, yes.
Cartoons, there are sexual innuendos.
Oh my God, yes.
The songs they're listening to. I had a mum that day called me up saying that my daughter is singing this song which has the word, pardon my French, but has the word motherfucker in it. And it's a very popular song. So she says, I'm asking her not to sing it, and she says, why? And I say, this is a bad word. She says, I have no clue how to explain to her what it means. So exposure is from there. Exposure is from, we've had parents call us up that we don't know what to do because a child has seen us making out because they sleep in the same room as us, and now have gone and described to their friends in detail the entire act. How do we tackle it? So now you may be a vigilant parent, no internet, no phone, no OTT.
But there might just be a clumsy setup in school.
And or it is not your child who's seen it. The child's friend has seen it who's now come and told your child.
Even better.
Even better. So now you cannot do anything about the exposure.
Yeah, but that's the point, that the exposure is so strong. So considering the exposure that has now developed, I think it's kind of snowballing, that the exposure is so much in the child's face. When was this turning point where you felt that now it's 100% necessary that this education has to be given on a very wide berth to children, adults, schools?
Well, if you were to ask me to name, it's been slowly happening, right?
Yeah, it has been.
Earlier, sex ed was a very trigger-led need.
Right.
You see probably see porn on your child's laptop and you know that, oh my God, I need to talk.
Yes.
Or you find the child spending a lot of time in the washroom and you're wondering that what's happening in there, I need to talk.
Right.
Or, you open up your child's diary on the sly and you notice some things written about their crushes or about, and you need, so it was a very trigger-led need.
Right.
Today, and when I say today, I mean I see a clear distinction between a pre-COVID and a post-COVID era.
Is it?
Major difference. And I keep repeating this, that the questions which we got asked by 9th and 10th graders today are being asked by 5th and 6th graders.
Why is that?
Because during COVID time, the learning became online. Correct. Everybody was given a device. They were given access to the internet. And that has opened up the world to them. They've been looking for stuff. They've accidentally stumbled upon stuff.
Right.
And of course, this entire social media happening much earlier than before.
Right. That's
the
right.
pressure to be on social media today for kids, to be on it much earlier. The pressure to have phones at a very young age is so much more. So when they have access to all of that, they have access to the internet. Thus, exposure is happening very, very early on. So I would say post-COVID, we have really very strongly felt the need to make sex ed mainstream.
Absolutely.
And I think today even the schools and parents are realizing that this conversation needs to be more preventive than reactive.
In fact, I personally believe, I'm not sure, and I think I've heard this from a lot of other parents as well, it should be part of the curriculum.
100%.
I do not think it should be a one-off seminar or a one-off workshop. It's essential that it's made part of the curriculum so it becomes just another subject. It is not, because as of right now, when you give it that status of it being a workshop or a seminar, it stands out as unique. When something stands out as unique, it becomes special. Special means interest, curiosity.
Even in the one session that we do in schools, and unfortunately most of the time we are just called for that one session because the schools are struggling with their timetable. They don't have time for this. Even in that one session, we see a palpable change in that 1.5 to 2 hours that we are with them.
I'm certain.
The comfort level changes, the confidence changes. It's amazing what magic happens in those 2 hours. And now imagine if this magic happens every day.
Exactly, or even
ongoing
once
year
in a
on
week
year.
or once
Absolutely.
in a month. Anything which is a little more in continuum.
But also it's not just about having a part of the curriculum, it's also about the way it is taught.
Yes.
If it is taught like a science academic subject, it will not have the same impact that we are desiring.
Oh yes, I remember considering I was in school in the 90s, and we had to skip the chapter of reproduction in biology because the teacher did not want to teach us.
Correct.
So we skipped it, and we were in the 8th grade, and she skipped it because once she came in with a pea pod and peas, trying to explain to us how the reproduction system works. And everybody who already knew about it by then, because you were 13-year-olds back in the 90s, you knew about things. Maybe not to a very large extent, but a few things at least. Some knew a lot, some knew nothing. The kids who knew it were making fun of the teacher. Now the teacher was so embarrassed, she skipped the chapter.
That happens still today, unfortunately, in a lot of schools. So that's why I said it's not about having it in the curriculum. What is the sex ed curriculum? How are you teaching it? That is what is the
And as
key.
you said, it can't be scientific.
That's it. Bring it down to the level of the kids' brain. Even today, sometimes in 12th grade, when we ask the kids, okay, it's basic, but we're still going to ask you so that we know that you have your facts before moving on to other topics. Can somebody tell us how periods happen?
Right.
And we'd like a boy to tell us this.
Right.
And there'll be stutters, stammers. Somebody will say, oh, I don't know. I just know that girls are very moody that time. Or somebody would say, oh, that endometrium lining. I said, okay. So that brings me to the fact that, yes, they have studied it because they're talking about endometrium lining.
Yes.
That means it's been an academics lesson. They've vomited it out on their exam paper and they've forgotten about it.
Yeah. But they don't know the actual working of how that...
So then when you make it like a story, you explain it to them in very simple words, and it's something they will not forget.
Absolutely, as I said, relatable.
Absolutely. And that's why, when I was talking about analogies, I think they work beautifully.
As we've, spoken about your storytelling, humor, gamification as tools to teach something so sensitive. Why did you choose that? I mean, of course, analogies work. I'm sure you've seen a distinction as to how the response has been coming in. So,
You know, in way back in 2008, I think, or I think before that, the government had made it mandatory in schools, sex ed to be mandatory in schools. It wasn't called sex ed. Okay, it was mandate. It was adolescent program, something like that. They called in teachers, they trained the teachers, they gave them a curriculum and told them to lead. Now that program unfortunately didn't do very well, because the moment teachers went into the classroom and they started teaching, they had the book with them or whatever notes they had, they started teaching. They got stuck when questions started coming in, or when kids started joking about things. They got majorly stuck. They got completely, they didn't know how to handle it. So that was one of the learnings. I had read about that case study. I had known about that. I was anyways always somebody who would take a mundane thing and make it fun, whether it was having a get together at home, whether it was a science experiment with my child, whether it was anything. So I said, okay, why don't take sex education and make it fun too? It's a serious topic, but who said that the serious topic needs to be taught in a serious, it needs to be taught in the serious manner, but the content could be relatable. And when humor, because I think humor makes, when people laugh, they relax. When they relax, they absorb the information better.
What's your favorite, out of all this we've spoken, what is your favorite moment, of teaching, whether it was a child understanding, a parent's relaxation, someone getting over their discomfort? What was your, I think, the prime moment that you felt that,
Priya, there have been so many moments,
sure.
And actually those are the ones which keep me going. And randomly you're somewhere and you bump into some parent and they'll say, oh my God, did I ever tell you that my life changed because of the sessions my child attended with you? Our whole atmosphere at home changed, our relationship changed. So, you just have these random people meeting. But what I really love is the aha moments. I remember this one, there are lots, like I said, but one particular one. We were talking about periods. I think it was with 8th or 9th graders, and they were boys. And so this boy randomly asked me, so when a girl gets pregnant, does she get her periods? So I said, no, she doesn't get her periods, because then this lining of the uterus, that's where the fertilized cell goes and attaches itself, and so it doesn't shed. He says, oh, so that means that lining is not dirty it's not dirty blood. Because the fertilized egg attaches itself and it stays inside the uterus for 9 months, means it's not dirty blood. I said, no, it's not dirty blood. So then all the myths that we have, that you cannot go to the temple, are they just that? Are they myths? Oh, okay. Can you tell us how they started? So those aha moments, when they connect one fact you're telling them to something else, they're just so beautiful.
You can actually see the eyes light up, and that's
eyes light up. Absolutely. It is gratifying. You have not just given them the information, there's a change which has happened in that child.
What does the parent-child dynamic, the role, the role of the parent and child, that dynamic, what is that? How does Untaboo relate to that? When it comes to, the parent-child dynamic, we're talking about, say, I am someone who's not interested in talking to my child about this. And now I have someone who's a professional like you who comes in. Or I am interested in talking to my child. Either way, on the opposite sides of the conversation. Either way, what is the dynamic that Untaboo will have with something like that? And
so whenever we go to schools, any new school we go to, our recommendation to them is, please start with a parent talk. Let me address the parents first. Let me tackle all the ifs and buts. Let me tell them the positives of having this conversation with the child, and let me empower them to support the children at home. Even if they're not able to answer the questions, at least they're supportive of the queries which may come or certain behaviors which may come. So that is one way, because whatever effort we make, for example, if basic safety, we teach our children about wearing seatbelt. If the school is saying, or we as experts are telling the kids, okay, you must always wear a seatbelt. But at home, the parent is not wearing a seatbelt. The whole impact is lost. That masturbation, religion says one thing, science says one thing. We're not talking about religion, we're talking about science, and science says that it is a safe way to release your sexual energy. Right. But at home, parents are talking about it being a sin, or parents are talking about it as a taboo. Then the child is completely lost. They don't know who to believe. We need to be speaking the same language.
Everybody has to be on the same...
Yes. Because remember, it's sex ed, I always say, is like a three-legged stool.
True, and maximum education happens at home.
Because a child may say something in the classroom, how the teacher reacts to that.
Yeah. Has it ever been that you've taught a child and you taught your child something, like you passed on some information, the child has gone home, spoken to the parent,
right.
They've unraveled that. How do you deal with something like that?
So it has happened that the child has gone home and told the parents that they're teaching us dirty things. They're showing us dirty images, they're teaching us dirty things. But so in my parent talk, I addressed this right at the beginning. I said, every child is going to come back home after the session and give a different kind of review. Some kids may become completely silent because they're absorbing it. Some may come and want to, tell you every little detail. Some may come and say, oh, it was a good session. Some may come and say, why did they need to do this? I know everything. And some may come and say, oh, they taught us dirty things. How you react to that will determine the child's attitude. Because a child coming and saying that they taught us dirty things is stemming from the fact that this is what the child has heard at home, that these things are dirty, you should not talk about it or listen. But
that's true.
It is coming from home. So 100%. How you react to the child's reaction, it will determine how the child accepts that information. So the parental role becomes extremely crucial in all of this.
You've impacted over 75,000 people. What does that number feel like when you pause and reflect?
Well, it's much higher number now. But I don't think we're counting numbers. I think probably we did at some point where we wanted to project it out there for the website or something, and then we started counting and, figuring it out. But I think you're really not counting those numbers. But I think every time, a child goes and says confidently the no to a touch, every time a parent talks to a child without stuttering and stammering, every time a teacher is tackling a situation in a very, very empathetic manner. I think those are the moments that we, really feel that yes, the work that we are doing is worth it. Because I think that has a ripple effect.
But the number does make a difference. Yeah. It's a statistic not only for a number, it is a statistic of the amount of knowledge you've actually passed on. And so much more to go.
Oh, thank you. In fact, I've been asking my boys, is somebody interested out of you two who's going to take up Untaboo after me? And if not, I'm looking for a successor. Hey, anybody out there who's as passionate, please come. Absolutely, so much of good work out there, content out there, which shouldn't die.
And having said that, now you spoke about successors. You're talking about the work that's still left.
Yeah.
At what age do you think this knowledge is best received by children?
Yeah.
Coming to the topic of safety, which is so important today, so important.
I think you should start this conversation extremely early on. Even with little babies, when you're changing their diaper, just talk to them.
Absolutely.
I'm cleaning your vulva now and I'm going to tie a diaper. I'm giving you a bath now and we need to shut the door because we're going to show our private part. Have those conversations, knock on the door. So those little things, talk about consent.
Right.
Sexual consent is much later. Teach them social consent. While I was waiting for to come in and, for this recording, I was sitting outside. There was a child outside. And very, very amazing little girl, 5-year-old girl, and she was, very happily chatting with people around. And one of the, girls who was nearby, she told her, "Hey, you're so cute. Can I take a picture with you?" And she said, "Okay," and she took a picture with that. Now, a 5-year-old girl, I'm sure the parents do think of talking about safety, but sometimes even we parents don't know what all to talk to them about.
Absolutely.
Today, it is so dangerous when a child's picture is taken.
Absolutely.
You don't know where it can be used or misused. So at 3 and 4 and 5, that conversation is important. And there are so many other conversations. So there is no real age. I think it's only the language which changes. So for example, if I were to talk to a 5 or 6-year-old, I would tell them, your body is yours. If I were to talk to a 10 plus child, I would tell them, your body is changing and it's normal. To a 15, 16-year-old, I would tell them, you have a choice about how your body is treated.
Right.
Make sure, you adopt safe practices. So if you see the message is the same,
Yes.
the vocabulary changes.
In fact, talking about incidences, that there have been incidences where parents have been told that we can't give this education to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. I said, but it's body safety. And, it's so important that it's given to them. Why would they get scared if you're telling them in the right way?
Absolutely.
In fact, the fact that they don't know and they could let anyone touch them, probably inappropriately, that is scary.
And like you rightly said, it's the way the information is given. There's a difference in teaching your child to be alert and
Right.
teaching your child to be afraid.
Absolutely, yes.
So that's what you need to aim for.
And what do you think of this information being passed down in preschools?
Correct.
Bodies changing, puberty is hit. Now it's needed. It's much required, I think, from the preschool level.
Absolutely. The kind of questions earlier we used to deal only with kids from grade 5 to grade 12.
Yes.
Then a few years back, it was from grade 1 to grade 12. Right. And today, Untaboo talks with kids from junior KG upwards.
Much
so
needed.
The need is, coming in much, much earlier. The kind of questions they're coming up with is way too early. Way too adult questions are coming up, and we have to figure out a way to answer them age appropriately.
Also the safety.
In fact, just last week, a mom called me up and she said, I have a 6-year-old, and the 6-year-old boy has come home and told her that we play a game in school called punishment. And this game is where you go around giving punishment to people. And some of the punishments they give out is go and kiss that girl and go and kiss that girl's private parts. Now, these are 6-year-olds. So shouldn't a talk on unsafe touches, inappropriate behaviors be definitely happening there?
Right.
And that's why I say ki sex ed is preventive. Don't
Absolutely.
wait. And it's not just because of the safety angle. It's also because I imagine a girl who's not been told about periods.
Precisely.
Goes to the school washroom, finds blood on her underwear, is shit scared, doesn't know what's happened to her.
That's right.
A boy waking up middle of the night with a sticky underwear and doesn't know what's this fluid which is coming out of his penis, and
Right.
completely scared. Even we have children completely scared when they start getting pubic hair.
That's right.
Not knowing that, is it only me or it happens to everybody?
This information is so important.
It's so important.
The natural hair, people will
natural
realize
hair.
it when it
Hanji.
happens.
Wait for it, yeah.
Oh, but sometimes it's better to just take the initiative
Correct.
and just give them the information.
So we always talk about the safety of a child. Of course, sex ed is important for the safety of a child, but sex ed is also important for the peace of mind of a child.
It's when I say safety, it's not only about the physical safety,
Yes.
it's about the mental well-being. So that helps the child at least to develop in a more sturdier manner rather than have this insecurity of one's own body, of
Right.
someone else touching them. That fear should not set in.
And sometimes not knowing is more traumatic than knowing.
If you could tell every Indian parent one thing, what would it be?
One word, talk.
Right.
Just one word. Please talk to your children. They are waiting for that
Information.
one
Yes.
source of accurate information, one person who's not going to judge them, is not going to make them feel guilty, is going to allay their fears about things, is going to going to tell them that you asking is not bad, curiosity is never bad. So please talk to your children. Now you cannot prevent the exposure.
Right.
Whatever you do, you put the best filters out there, you put the be the most vigilant parent. Exposure will creep in from some corner or some crack. But your conversation will help a child process that exposure.
Absolutely.
So please talk to you.
Even for a parent to be open-minded to talk about it.
Well, I would say let's not make this as an excuse that it is my conditioning which stops me from
Precisely.
having this conversation. We were conditioned for a lot of things. We've overcome those conditionings.
So open-minded to first even be open-minded.
Be
I
open
would
to
suggest.
change.
It's very essential because we do have a habit of blaming.
Yes.
It pehle hota tha. It was like this for us. It'll be like this for you. Times have changed.
We cannot compare.
Yes, we cannot compare the time. What are your hopes for the future of Untaboo? Schools, policies, online platforms, in that sense.
I always think I have a huge vision board in my office, and I think even if I spend a lifetime, it's going to be not enough for me to do the kind of things that I want to do in this space of sex education. There is so much to do. So currently I have workshops for children, for teens, I have parent awareness talks, I have teacher talks, teacher trainings, online platform for sex education. I have a play on puberty called Growing Up, which is a musical. I have a conversation game which helps parents have open conversations easily with their children. And there are 100 other things that I want to do. I just feel the time is less, in fact. I feel there's so much more. But I also want that I really want to see that time where a kid is not scared to ask questions.
Right.
A parent is not scared to open those conversations. A school makes it mandatory part of their curriculum. But I feel that would be a true celebration.
Much needed and beautiful vision, and I really hope it just does fructify into that. And finally, what does strength mean to you after all that you have built and broken through?
You know, I meet a lot of people who've known me for a long time, and surprisingly, a lot of them say the same thing to me. They tell me, oh my God, you're very persistent. You're so strong. You're so persistent. And I feel it makes me think that strength is not never being afraid. I've been terrified at times, but still continuing because you believe so much in this. I think if you believe in something very strongly and you go for it no matter what, it could be even as a parent that you are dying inside and don't want to have those conversations, but you still have that conversation. A child who's scared doesn't know that how to say that no, but still says a no. I think that is strength.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. I think a very delicate topic handled so beautifully by you. And I'm hoping that this information doesn't only pass on to classrooms, it goes much beyond and your voice just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I hope every vision on that vision board of yours is fulfilled. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Priya, for helping me amplify that voice and that message. So thank you so much.